I'm kicking my wife out next week.
Great. Finally, the three of us can live together in that house.
My husband and his mistress were talking happily. I was listening to them, holding my breath from behind a partition. My name is Emily. I'm an office worker in my late 20s. I met my husband, Jake, through a friend, and we quickly decided to get married. But after the wedding, Jake's attitude became distant. Even when he was home, he was always on his phone, and he seemed increasingly absent-minded. He started neglecting his share of the housework, and when I pointed it out, he looked annoyed. I wanted children, but Jake spent less and less time at home, and we became sexless during what should have been our honeymoon phase.
I see. It's been tough for you since the wedding, huh?
I endured this life for about 2 years before finally consulting my older sister.
How about this plan to check Jake's feelings?
My sister suggested a plan, and I decided to go along with it. Jake, I actually won a pair of tickets for a fancy dinner. Would you like to go together? I said this and showed Jake the tickets. We haven't gone out together in a while, so how about it?
All right, fine. I'll hold on to the tickets.
I handed the tickets to Jake as he suggested. The tickets specified the place and date. On the day of the dinner, while I was getting ready, Jake called me from work.
Sorry, I just got an urgent business trip, so I won't be able to come home tonight. I'll make it up to you, so please cancel tonight's dinner.
Do you really have to go?
Of course, it's work, so don't complain.
Jake yelled and hung up the phone. Dressed for dinner, I left the house. My destination was the restaurant where I was supposed to go with Jake. My sister and I arrived at the restaurant a bit earlier than the time Jake and I were supposed to be there. After a while, someone was shown to the table next to ours behind a partition. We held our breath and stayed quiet, and then I heard a familiar voice.
I'm so happy to have dinner in such a lovely place. Thank you, Jake.
I'm glad you like it, Kate.
It was Jake's familiar voice and Kate's voice, which I hadn't heard in a while. I knew it. I am the middle of 3 sisters, and Kate is the youngest. Kate always wanted whatever we had. She even took my stuffed animals, toys, and once, even my boyfriend. I didn't want Kate and Jake to meet, but it was hard to avoid completely once we got married. My younger sister, Kate, is always wanting anything that belongs to me or my older sister, so I'm actually worried about introducing her to Jake. When I confessed my concerns to Jake before the wedding,
Don't worry. I'm only into you, Emily.
he brushed it off lightly. After Kate and Jake first met at the wedding, my older sister Martha and I kept an eye on Kate, but they didn't seem to interact much then. However, Kate had indeed approached Jake and started an affair with him. Even though I wasn't sure if the mistress was Kate, I suspected Jake was having an affair. So, Martha's plan was,
Let's give Jake these fancy dinner tickets and see if he's cheating.
that was what it was like. Martha prepared 2 sets of pair tickets. If Jake lied and used the tickets, we'd be able to sit next to them. If Jake used the tickets with me, I could still have hope for our marriage. If he was really working late, there's nothing I could do. But Jake was indeed having an affair, and with my younger sister, Kate. Martha was furious, but she kept quiet. The 2 of them were talking loudly and happily, and I thought I could hear a child's voice occasionally. We couldn't see each other due to the partition, but maybe Kate had brought her child. I hadn't known that Kate had given birth while we were out of touch.
I'm kicking my wife out next week.
Great. Finally, the three of us can live together in that house.
I heard them say this and lowered my head. Not because I was shocked, but because I almost burst out laughing. What a ridiculous thing to say. From the moment they appeared, I had made up my mind. Divorce was certain, but I wouldn't be satisfied without some form of retribution. We ate our meal in silence. On our table were a phone and a voice recorder. It was a shame to waste such a fancy dinner, but we needed to record the conversation next to us. Luckily, the two of them were so engrossed in each other that they didn't notice our silent table.
I'm grateful to you, Kate. Thanks for having my adorable child. I'll be divorced soon, so please wait a little longer.
I'm so happy. If I can marry you, Jake, I'll wait. You're amazing, Jake. So wonderful and such a high earner. Thanks for the gift.
Apparently, Jake was spoiling Kate with gifts. Jake was stingy with our household expenses, so we each paid separately. Even though he was sexless with me, he had a child with Kate. After thoroughly enjoying their meal, they left.
It's unfortunate that my money ended up satisfying them.
Martha joked after we finished recording. Don't worry, we'll get it back tenfold. I replied with determination. The weekend after that fancy dinner, Jake slept in the bedroom until almost noon. I didn't wake him up, but he must have noticed the house was noisier than usual. He came downstairs in his loungewear, looking grumpy.
Damn, it's so noisy, I couldn't sleep well. What's going on here?
Jake complained as he came down and looked around the house, mouth agape. You were sleeping till nearly noon, and you say you couldn't sleep well?
What's happening here?
Jake finally managed to say. Can't you see? We're moving out.
What?
Jake yelled in response to my answer.
What's going on? I wasn't told anything about this.
I didn't tell you anything, I said calmly, and Jake glared at me.
Hey, you're moving out without saying anything to me? Are you kidding? This is my house too.
Oh, weren't you planning to kick me out this week? I thought I'd save you the trouble. Jake stiffened at my words.
What are you talking about? I don't remember saying anything like that.
Oh, did you forget? It was just last week, I said with a smile, and Jake's face twisted. He seemed to remember something.
What are you talking about?
I cut him off. Oh, look, it seems your guest has arrived. I pointed to the sound of a car stopping outside. Looking towards the entrance, I saw Martha bringing Kate inside.
What do you mean, guest? I haven't seen Kate since the wedding.
Ignoring Martha, Jake tried to act clueless about Kate. This was already incriminating enough.
Jake, you're already packing for the move?
Kate ran to Jake, talking cheerfully and pressing her body against him. Jake tried to distance himself from Kate, aware of my presence, but Kate didn't seem to notice and clung to him.
Kate, what are you talking about?
Well, what do you mean? You said we'd live together after kicking out Emily. I thought we'd finally live as a family, so I've been preparing too.
Kate blurted out everything, cutting off Jake's attempt to feign ignorance. So, Jake planned to kick me out and live here with his mistress, Kate. Is that right? Jake began to panic at my words.
No, Emily, that's not what I...
So, you were just playing with me and planning to dump me? You even invited me to a fancy dinner and promised to kick Emily out.
Kate interjected, making things worse for Jake. Oh, a fancy dinner, huh? I glared at Jake.
Well, actually, the business trip got canceled, and I thought about coming home, but I ran into Kate by chance. She's my sister-in-law, so I thought I should be kind to her.
Jake's excuses became more pathetic. It's fine, don't worry about it. I ate that fancy dinner too.
Huh? What do you?
Like this. I played the recording from the voice recorder. It captured their entire conversation, laughing and mocking me, and planning to kick me out and marry Kate. Even with this undeniable evidence, Jake didn't know what to do, nervously looking back and forth between me and Kate. Look, in this situation, you can't play both sides. It's time to make up your mind. Even though I said this, Jake didn't change his indecisive attitude. Well, before you make up your mind, I've made up mine. I want a divorce. Hearing me say I wanted a divorce, Jake looked slightly relieved. He probably didn't want to be the bad guy by asking for a divorce himself. Typical of Jake. Kate, standing next to him, lit up.
So, can the three of us live here together now? I'm so happy.
Kate jumped on Jake again, full of joy. Sorry to be a downer, but that's not going to happen. Jake was the one surprised by my words.
What? Why not? Since we're getting divorced, I can do whatever I want with this house. I'm sorry, but you'll have to find another place to live.
Kate nodded in agreement beside him. No, why not is my line. This house is in my name. You don't have any rights to it.
A what? Really?
Kate, who knew nothing, was shocked. Yes, because I bought this house when I was single. Jake just moved in. Jake and I had been almost living together in this house since we started dating. I bought this house before we started dating. Our mom raised us alone, but we had a pretty comfortable childhood. That's because our grandparents on our mom's side were wealthy. Thanks to that, the three of us grew up without any financial worries. After our grandparents passed away, our mom died about 5 years ago, and the inheritance was equally divided among us. With my share, I bought the house I dreamed of since I was a kid. Kate, you got an inheritance from mom too, right? I used mine to buy this house outright, so Jake has no rights to it. I explained to Kate, and Jake hurriedly chimed in.
But since we got married, I should have some rights to it, right? Please, I'll give you a lot of money. Just let me have the house.
He clasped his hands together, pleading with me. No, property owned before marriage doesn't become marital property. Isn't that right, Martha? I asked Martha, and she nodded deeply.
Yes, property acquired after marriage is marital property, but anything from before remains separate. Jake has no claim to this house.
Jake was stunned by Martha's words. He probably said grand things to impress Kate, but was just ignorant. What a fool. Without even looking into it, he made such selfish assumptions, and I couldn't help but be exasperated.
But I wanted this house.
Kate complained. Then buy it. I have no objections. The house is currently for sale. I informed her.
What? What do you mean?
What do you mean? It's exactly what it sounds like. This house is being sold. That's why I'm moving my stuff out. Don't worry, it's only my things. I'm not just moving out to spite Jake. This house has already been put up for sale.
Well, Jake, buy this house then. I really like it.
Kate said, clinging to Jake. Jake seemed to get an idea.
Didn't Emily just say that you got an inheritance too, Kate? So all three of you got equal shares?
That's right. It was divided equally. I answered honestly since it wasn't a secret.
So, if Kate buys the house,
But I don't have that kind of money left. Jake, you make a lot of money, so you can buy it, right?
By the way, here's the listing price. I showed them part of the contract I made with the real estate agent. Jake's face turned to complete despair.
Jake, please buy the house.
Kate smiled innocently, but Jake averted his eyes with a forced smile. If you want to buy the house, call the real estate agent later. By the way, all the furniture and appliances are mine, so there won't be anything big left.
what? You're taking everything?
Jake shouted again. Yes, because like the house, I bought them before we got married. It's easier for you to move out, isn't it? It was tough for me to find a new place in just a week. Jake had moved in with almost no belongings, so he didn't have much here besides personal items. He might not even need movers. Before the table gets moved, there's one more thing. I placed the divorce papers on the table.
Wait, do we really have to get divorced?
I felt pure contempt for Jake at this point. What are you talking about? In this situation, not getting divorced is impossible.
Yeah, Jake, you said you'd marry me, right?
Kate pressed Jake passionately, contrasting with my cold tone.
Well,
Seeing Jake falter in front of Kate, I decided to lay out the reality. Jake, you don't have a choice. You're at fault here for cheating. I laid out several photos on the table. The pictures showed Jake and Kate walking together lovingly, and even Jake holding a young child with Kate, both smiling. I only started gathering evidence a week ago, but there was so much. How naive are you? I said sarcastically.
Jake and I love each other, so it can't be helped. We want to be together all the time.
Kate smiled at Jake. Jake no longer had the energy to stop Kate. When did this start?
Since Emily's wedding, I just happened to run into Jake and we hit it off.
Happened to, huh? You probably seized the chance to give him your contact info at the wedding, and Jake fell for it. Jake responded to my words.
no, I thought it would be rude to ignore Emily's sister. I didn't have any ulterior motives at first.
I don't care if you had ulterior motives or not. The result is that you had an affair, I said sharply, and Jake looked down, deflated.
Don't be mean to Jake. Maybe he wanted to escape because of your personality.
Kate pretended to comfort Jake while taking a jab at me. She smirked at me. In my teens, this might have hurt, but in late 20s, it doesn't faze me. A man who cheats with his wife's sister right after the wedding? I'm done with him. He's all yours with a bow on top. Kate's eyes widened in surprise. Did she think this would hurt me? We had been distant since our mother passed away. To me, Kate hadn't changed, but maybe she thought Martha and I hadn't either. I have no lingering feelings for Jake, so let's get to the practical matters. First, there's no division of property.
What? That's ridiculous.
Jake protested. It's not ridiculous. You were hardly ever home, and we split the living expenses. There's no marital property to divide. In fact, I paid for the property taxes and utilities, so you can pay me back for those if you want. And you didn't pay any rent. Jake was at a loss for words. He was so engrossed in his affair that we rarely even ate together. We each handled our own needs with nothing to share. Also, I'll be demanding alimony for the affair. That includes from you, Kate.
What? Me too.
Kate frowned. Of course, you didn't just take my boyfriend, but my husband. You're an adult. Take responsibility.
Fine.
Kate replied sullenly.
Well, I have Jake. Jake, you'll cover my alimony, right?
Kate clung to Jake again, and he forced a smile. As I watched, I said, "By the way, you mentioned being a family of 3. Is the child Jake's?"
Yes. It might be hard for Emily to hear since she couldn't have kids, but this is our love child.
Kate said triumphantly, but I didn't react. Then it's a secret child. That means higher alimony, I said calmly.
Why? The child isn't at fault.
Kate yelled. No, the child isn't at fault. I'm talking about your fault. You'll pay for the sin of having a secret child with a married man. Since Kate kept saying nonsensical things, I sighed and said, Anyway, we need to discuss these financial matters, but I don't want to see you again after today. From now on, communicate with my lawyer.
Lawyer?
Martha stepped forward in front of the 2 bewildered faces.
Hello, I'm the lawyer hired by Emily.
What? You're kidding.
Jake shouted in surprise, and Kate looked equally shocked.
No way. You're a lawyer? You never mentioned anything like that.
We've been distant, so there was no reason to tell you. Here's proof.
Martha showed them her lawyer's badge attached to her jacket.
You can also look up my name online. Lawyers' names are always listed.
Jake hurriedly searched on his phone and found her name, looking stunned.
It's true. Her name is listed.
He mumbled, and Kate was even more surprised. So, don't contact me anymore. If you need anything, talk to Martha. Martha placed her business card on the table, and I headed for the door but turned back to Jake and Kate. If you want to buy this house, go ahead. If not, move out within a week. I left the house with those words and headed to my new place alone. A month after Jake's affair and the moving fiasco, I went out for dinner with Martha. Tonight's on me. It might not be as fancy as that dinner.
Oh, you didn't have to. You paid me generously.
We enjoyed our conversation for a while. Thanks for filing the divorce papers so quickly.
It's my job. But are you sure? To lower the alimony a bit in exchange for getting the divorce papers signed right away. You were likely to get close to the full amount you asked for in court anyway.
Martha looked worried. It's fine. I wanted it over quickly. Even the reduced amount is a big hit for them. It was indeed a significant blow to both of them.
Kate came to my office the other day. She didn't tell Jake.
I tilted my head, wondering why Kate would do that.
What do you want? The alimony was settled, and you have no business with me or Emily.
When Kate visited, Martha apparently responded to her coldly.
Don't be so cold, Martha. Emily is your sister, and so am I, right?
Kate used a sweet voice, but Martha was wary of her asking for something.
That's true, but you only see me as a sister when you want something. What is it this time?
Martha asked cautiously.
If I divorce Jake, can I get the alimony back from Emily?
Martha was so stunned she was speechless for a moment. By the way, Jake and Kate got married a few days after our divorce, and he recognized the child.
There's no way you'll get it back. That was the price for your infidelity. And it doesn't matter if you get married or divorced.
What? But if I give Jake back to Emily, everything will be back to normal. So we shouldn't need the money.
Kate said, looking dissatisfied with Martha's response. Typical Kate. She hasn't changed since her teenage years. I couldn't help but laugh.
It's not funny. Dealing with her directly was exhausting.
Martha said, looking weary. Sorry. So, what did Kate do?
Well, I asked her, "You made such a fuss about getting married, so why are you already talking about divorce?"
I thought about it. In the past, Kate might have been satisfied just by taking him from me and then breaking up. But this time, she seemed desperate to get married. Kate's answer was this.
Well, Jake seemed to have a good financial situation, and he said the house was his, so I thought it would be easy once we got married. But the house was Emily's, and he didn't pay my share of the alimony. He didn't even buy the house.
Kate pouted and listed her complaints about Jake.
And after we got married, he became stingy. He used to pay for everything, but now he tells me to pay for my own things. Isn't that financial abuse?
Kate seriously complained, and Martha said she couldn't believe what she was hearing. Martha lectured her right there, but who knows how much got through. Jake's a pushover, and he probably spent most of his salary on Kate. Maybe the alimony broke him. I know you went through a lot, so enjoy this nice meal today. We enjoyed our dinner together. After that, neither Kate nor Jake showed up at Martha's office. But instead, a letter from Jake arrived. He didn't know my address, so he sent it to Martha's office.
I haven't opened it. Do you want me to throw it away?
Martha asked with concern. It's okay, just forward it to me, I asked. When I read the letter, it was filled with his self-pity and how he realized his mistakes.
I was deceived by that devil of a woman. She tore us apart. Despite spending so much money on Kate, she shows no gratitude and calls it financial abuse when I ask her to pay for herself. Kate is a greedy woman. Compared to her, you were so humble and graceful. You turned your inheritance into a wonderful home, but Kate squandered hers and didn't contribute anything. She even neglects her child, unfit to be a mother. Since I also have work, I decided to have my parents take care of the kids, but they like you and have cut ties with me. I realize now how foolish I was. This child might not even be mine. Please, Emily, come back to me. You can forgive me, right? Honey, I'll always be waiting for you.
I laughed as I tore up the letter. He can wait forever. No one's coming back to him.